Lunch break! Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Lunch Break, and thank you to our +1 today, Leon Chan, who requested Thai food.
We are so excited today. This is such a special episode. I'm kind of fanboying over here on this side of the plexiglass. But we got Dianne Doan with us today.
Oh gosh, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
And the reason why it's so special is because this episode is in partnership with HBO Max. They're an amazing streaming platform, and it's the streaming platform where I finally got to watch Warrior!
So you guys might recognize Dianne from the hit show Warrior. There's 2 seasons out now on HBO Max.
Yeah.
God, you guys are so nice. That is a very warm welcome, so I appreciate you.
It's crazy timing too because we actually recently released a short film on our channel called Our Home Here.
Oh yes. Okay, first of all,
Which
I
you were
have
on,
to
yeah.
thank you for doing that. I know Angela,
Yeah.
our director, has a small tie-in with
Yeah,
Wong Fu.
she was our assistant director.
An AD,
sorry.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
So I met Angela after the first filming of season 1 of Warrior, and I came home and we set up a meeting, and I love female directors. I think it's so important. An Asian female director was
Yeah.
like another bonus.
Yep.
But her story was so beautiful. And then I worked with Brandon Suhu. He was like, you guys work
Yep.
together all the time, I should say?
He was also on that film too. I think that's how she casted Brandon because
Oh, okay.
he was ADing on that project.
But without you guys putting up that, like, I checked it and it was like just under 150,000 views, and like that's 150,000 people that would have never seen it because Angela did her work and put it in all these film festivals, which is incredible, but we didn't have a platform, so I just need to say thank you.
Of course. I mean, it was such a great project, and yeah, we also want to support Asian female directors as well, strong leads, amazing actors, and we know that Wong Fu is like not the only storytellers that are out there, so we have a platform to share, and I'm glad it brought more eyeballs, similar to Warrior
And HBO
being on
Max.
HBO Max.
That was a seamless transition.
Well, no, I was. When we released our home here, actually, there are so many comments. I was like, "What's Mylene doing here? What's Mylene?"
yeah.
So a lot of our fans already
nice.
knew about
Yeah.
our fans of the show. People that watch this show have been wanting us to talk about Warrior for a long time, and I've been too, just because like I discovered it during the pandemic earlier this year.
And I think people have just been wanting the show in general for so long, too, because like
Yeah.
going back, I guess, all the way to the origins of Warrior, I don't know if many people know that story, right, where it's Bruce Lee's show.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
Bruce-
kind of crazy how it finally came to be, right?
It was pretty incredible. Like when we landed in Cape Town, we were doing the pilot. Shannon had printed out these folders for each one of us, and she had these really beautifully, they weren't the originals, but they were prints of Bruce Lee's treatments. And like him, writing out Assam and like the story titles
wow.
and certain characters. I think he wrote the character of Big Bill already. I don't know if it was that name, but yeah, it's chilling knowing that, 50 odd years prior, he would have wanted to make the show and it just wasn't possible. And then the fact that Justin Lin called Shannon up one day and was like, do you have anything?
Amazing.
Like in the vault, I'm sure you have so much, but is there anything in particular? And
That's amazing.
Warrior and
That's
Jonathan
amazing.
Tropper coming on.
Even the show coming out on HBO Max, that was already a delay too.
But that was huge for our show.
Right, because it was out before for 2 years prior.
Yeah, I think our first season premiered 2019.
Right.
It was on Cinemax. It was hard for people to find. Not many people had a subscription to it, but we as a cast and a crew knew how special our show was. Like we still are so proud to further Bruce Lee's legacy. Like who can say that? That's so crazy. But we were sitting on it. We're like, we know how great it is, but how do we get it out there? And like without HBO Max, it literally opened millions. I mean, I don't know how many people watched it.
for sure
But the
millions.
possibility of millions of people.
I was definitely one of those people, and I have a lot of friends that were also just very organically saying, "Hey, have you guys heard of the show on HBO Max?" Because I remember seeing like the billboards, and I'm like, "This is so cool to see," and it seems really like timing-wise. Of course, yeah, there's a show with all Asians and the Asian story, but like in this post-Crazy Rich era. But you guys actually shot this even before Crazy Rich Asians.
We were in production before Crazy Rich Asians premiered. I think they were already done filming.
Right.
So we didn't have that taste of, the cold open, the push of really standing behind our community.
Yeah.
That hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So I think when we were starting the production of the first season of Warrior, we were kind of like,
Where's this gonna go?
we have no idea how this is going to be received. And then thank God for Crazy Rich Asians, which is also on HBO Max.
Max.
Did we see this uprise of our community just like standing behind one another?
Right. Okay, let's be honest. I think like anytime there's like some kind of martial arts thing, I think every Asian person kind of like braces themselves. Like, okay, how are they gonna do it? How is it gonna be, depicted? What's the story? As soon as the intro sequence started, I'm like, I'm so in. This is the coolest intro sequence ever. Just like martial arts in a Western time.
Yeah.
With like mob, like authentic cultural, like callbacks and
Historical.
historical. Oh my God, I was just like, I'm so into this.
I think what I'm noticing now, just seeing ourselves as the hero
Yeah.
beat the crap out of like who we want to beat. You know what I mean? Like standing up for ourselves. The parallels that are what are happening right now and what the show represents is it's really emotionally charged. Like it shouldn't be happening.
So let's talk about that for a second. I'm
Okay.
so glad you brought that up because it came out early this year. Obviously, it's been a whole year of rising anti-Asian violence and hate.
Yeah.
And I remember even when I was watching it back in January, I was like, this is crazy how we're getting a little bit of look back in time.
1882, I think.
Right. Over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And the same language is happening, the same sentiments, the same violence.
Yeah.
How is this possible? And I was just like, it's crazy that the timing worked out, as terrible as that sounds. But
Yeah.
like, for us to see like this violence has been going on it's actually so important. First of all, some people will say that we don't even experience racism or violence, which is ridiculous and crazy. And then some people think that it's new, and we're like everyone, and we all know like no, it's been happening. And to have a show that literally has the production value and the writing and the characters to like depict it is so important.
And what's happening on our show is like the Tongs are coming together, and I think in real life it's communities of color that are coming together.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful mirrored, as much as it is heartbreaking, this cycle hasn't been broken.
But that's why having a show is so important, because if there wasn't even a show,
wouldn't know.
They wouldn't even know, or like you need these visual pieces to like capture and preserve, so that future generations can like understand, oh, this is what was happening.
Yeah, and they can spark discussion too. Like
Right.
in the past, like going through like Asian American studies in school, like we'll get like a documentary here and there.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
to see it actually, just like I know it's fiction, but like to feel the feelings that like our ancestors did at that time is it's really it's eye opening for sure.
Well, let's talk more about you and your
okay.
role in it. First of all, how did
Okay.
you get involved in the show?
I was the last person cast.
Really?
Yeah, the last person. They were searching for months and months and months, and I hadn't been a part of it, or I didn't even know about it. And I remember, I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday, and I was in bed. It was very early in the morning, and my manager just emailed me saying, "Heads up, we passed on this project. It's called Warrior." Because in the breakdown,
Oh.
it's very explicitly says like you have to be comfortable with nudity and simulated sexual acts. And I've been very firm in my jobs and my choices thus far of not doing that. And when it's kind of stated like that, to me, it's almost gratuitous. So she said, I passed, let's move on. And I think I said, great, moving on, great, thanks for the heads up. And then I sat there and I was tossing and turning and Manny was still asleep and I'm like, I never do this. I just wanted to Google Warrior.
Yeah.
Because most of the time when a project comes in, it hasn't even been announced.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
want to Google it, nothing comes up because
Right.
it's still so new. So I Googled Warrior and like in bold letters was like Justin Lin, Bruce Lee, Shannon Lee and Jonathan Tropper. And I just like, what? And Manny has been Joy Luck Club has really started it for him. And this was before we even know Jason Tobin was on the show.
Oh, right. By the way, we're talking about Manny Jacinto.
Oh,
my
my hubby.
Just want to put that out there.
My hubs. And so he just sat there and he was like, you gotta try.
Yeah.
This is just an audition. It's not even saying you're gonna get it,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
you gotta put yourself out there for
Right.
this. We don't even know what it's about. And I'm like, okay. And so there was a back and forth of like, are you sure? Because if you agree to do it, you're agreeing to do
All this other stuff.
all this other stuff that's going to come with it. And something I was like, I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
And so what my first meeting was a Zoom or a FaceTime with Jonathan Tropper.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even do the proper audition.
Oh, okay.
And my team was like, my manager basically was like, just have a meeting with him.
Yeah.
If you don't get good vibes,
Yeah.
let's just pass. And I had such an amazing meeting. I talked about the character, what his vision for the show was, and I had like 24 hours to put myself on tape.
Oh my God.
And then I handed it in on a Friday, and I remember we were driving this way, and I was with Manny. I'm like, it's Friday. It's just, we got to let it go. And that Friday, they were like, great, you have a meeting with the director on a Sunday. And by, I think, Monday or Tuesday, I'd booked it. And like, the end of that week, I was off doing the shot. Like, it was like this.
Like, so they were already oh my God.
And I talked, and JT was like, we were willing to wait to try to find the right person, because the pilot we shot out of sequence. We shot that for a month, and then we had winter break, and then we came back and did the rest full swing. And he was like, your scenes in the pilot were minimal, so whoever got the role could have shot it in the new year. So I landed, and I think a week prior, I was just auditioning for it.
That's amazing.
But then I find out people who have been in months, like
they've been
ready
building
to go
these
for
massive
months.
sets.
It's
Training
like,
these
wait.
sequences, these martial arts fight sequences.
And you just come in here with the sword, just slashing throats. That's incredible. Like, when you first found out more about the role, and you found out that you were this evil villain.
But I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
Okay. What was your first reaction when you're like, oh my God, I'm kind of a bee?
Well, I never think I was a bee.
Okay,
First
all
of
right.
all,
Oh,
I
okay.
think Mai Ling has done what she needs to do to protect herself and her people, whether that's the Longzi and or the Chinese population in Chinatown.
But what about Assam?
She's a bee as in boss.
I've warned him how many times.
Okay, so
I've invited him over to my side.
That's
He
true.
says no.
That's true.
Like, all these people in the comments being like, you're evil, or like, you're the villain. I'm like, you know?
I just think it's so funny because you're so sweet and bubbly. And then when I see you on screen, I'm like, oh my God. Third season was announced. How excited are you?
It's like, it hasn't hit me yet, to be honest.
Right.
I'm so grateful.
Were you plugged into that news? Like, did you know that they were actively trying?
We knew, because we had some, like, Jonathan Tropper, our showrunner, he was very kind, and he reached out to all of us being like, is this something you even want to do? But he knew the answer. I mean, we are a cast who've been in touch with each other since, we wrapped season 2. We are the closest family that I've ever had an experience working on a show, which says a lot.
Yeah.
So to be able to go back and work with everyone again, and like, we're so excited. And I have no idea where it's gonna go, because most of us in reality, like, we kind of put it on our back burner, like, because there was such a big chance that it was gonna not come back.
Right.
Well, now we can give it the gold open. That we're hoping to give it in the beginning, but now it's gonna be crazy.
I
It
hope
must have
so.
been very
I hope
heartbreaking
so.
to know that, like, for a long period of time, that it was just this unfinished but also very important show that maybe didn't get the audience that it needed. So now it finally does.
I mean, our thing was like, we would just have loved to finish it on our terms, because there are a lot of cliffhangers at the end, a lot of unanswered questions. So now to be able to not only finish it on our terms, but possibly keep it going and continue the story. I mean, it's unheard of. So we're so grateful to HBO Max and everyone who watched it, because it's like all you guys.
I think it's honestly beyond just a normal, like, I'm a fan of a show, and it really is, like, I think people saw how important it was, because like we were saying earlier on, the topics that were being talked about, the characters that were being depicted too, like, getting to see these not only like powerful Asian women, powerful Asian men as well, like looking sharp as like those suits, like.
Who wants to challenge us on that? Like, what is it? Strong Asian male lead, sexy Asian male lead. Like, get out of here.
Even the topics too, like when I first heard in the script them even mention the Chinese Exclusion Act, I'm like, is this the first time I've heard Chinese Exclusion Act in a TV show? I think it might have been, at least for me. I was like, that's crazy that such a huge part of our history has like never been depicted or even mentioned. And so like now season 3, so many more topics that they can like dive into, and I think that's so cool.
You guys.
Season 2.
So nice.
We're gonna jump into some care holder questions that care holders submitted. First up, do you do your own stunts? If so, what are some of the biggest challenges when attempting or getting ready to attempt them?
Brett Chan is our stunt coordinator on the show. Incredible human being. They basically gave him like an airplane hangar on the lot in Cape Town Film Studios. And he built us this stunt tent. But like to the extreme. I've seen stunt tents before. This is like something else. And so every morning, we as a cast and our stunt men could train from like 9 to noon.
Oh my God.
So we get all shipped in on a bus, like we get picked up, and we would train together. And it was the most exhilarating time. It was team building. We're getting fit. But I would sit there being like, I'm ready, coach. Like, put me in. But as Mai Ling and being the head of a Tong, they're always like, it doesn't make sense for you to fight. Like, you have men to fight your battles. You have Leon, like Joe's gonna do it for you. But every episode, I would just be in there being like, anything? So in season 1, I had a tiny little moment with Bolo, but if I did do my stunts, I would do most of them. We have incredible stunt doubles, and our team is incredible, so I have to give them credit, of course. But I would love to do more. Does that answer the question a little bit?
Maybe season 3 is like when you kind of like take
someone needs to challenge me. She's been at the top for too long.
You need to put someone in check,
Yeah.
On the note of the stunts though, like, did you have any martial arts background like before the show? Because I know like the rest of the cast, you know, like Andrew Koji, right? He has an extensive Taekwondo background, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious if you or
Joe
if you know,
Taslim, Judo King. I grew up dancing.
Okay.
Most of my life, I did ballet, and then I did a little bit of everything. But before dance, I did 2 years of Taekwondo and a little bit of Thai kickboxing.
Okay.
I can't say that I came into Warrior being like,
Right. Okay.
show me your stuff.
But that was on your resume that they saw like, oh, she'll be capable of doing that.
Yes, I think, but also being a mover my whole life, it gives me a one-up to pick up movement very easily.
Right. What are some similarities of the 19th century and today? You're on this time period set. You know, like, do you feel like you're really getting immersed in it?
I would say when I did research to go into Warrior, a lot of the women would be kind of reduced down to whether it's sex workers or they weren't allowed into the country. And the irony of our show is every woman on the show is in a position of power, which says, you know, wonders about the characters and our development being a woman on this show as well. But, you know, I run the Tong, the gangs. Olivia's character, Atoy, runs the sex industry. Penelope runs kind of the Mercer Steel. And I feel like we are at the top of the pyramid and just the men work for us.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that was really like pretty badass.
Yeah, I was gonna say like on the surface, like this action show seems really geared towards like the male audience.
Yes, exactly.
But like as I'm watching, it's like, you know, women can completely enjoy this show too. It's pretty cool. Like if I had daughters, I'd be like, you guys can watch this.
After like maybe 16 or 17 to 18 years old age.
This is Cinemax. How do you feel about Asian representation in media in the film industry in the years to come?
When I am on a set
Yeah.
and I see anyone Asian, you know, and we know this, like we gravitate towards someone that we relate to.
Yeah.
I get giddy. I will like I will stalk them and make them have lunch with me. To be like, can I have lunch with you? Like, who are you here? What do you do? How'd you get here?
Right.
Because
What's your story?
we're not, there's not enough of us.
Right. And I think that's what's so powerful about the show is that everyone is Asian. And what's even better is that you don't have to explain it. It's unapologetic. And that's what I've always been trying to like push for in terms of just what we do here and what I want to see more of. It's like, we don't have to always have a reason why there's a lot of Asian people. Like, why can't we, right? And so, and this show, obviously it's a period piece and it's like these families and tongs and stuff. But it's so cool that we can just enjoy a show and not have to feel like, is this okay? Like, can we have this many people?
And it's not like being made fun of, or it's not like the butt of a joke, right?
Right. A lot of the audience mentioned the language and how that was worked. Because of course back then, like no one would speak English. It would be very heavily accented. There would be Cantonese. It would be fully Cantonese. Like, how does this work? How can you make this work? Be smart about it. Be creative. And I really think that's what they did. That one move in the camera to shift from Cantonese to English is seamless.
Yeah, it's almost like a trilingual show actually too, because you have scenes completely in English, you have scenes completely in Cantonese, and then when you know the white Americans are talking to the Chinese, then they're kind of speaking in a Chinglish kind of dialect, right? So that was
actually it's in their ears. It's in the white people's ears, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've had challenges like Hoon Lee, who plays Wang Chao. He has a monologue of sorts in Cantonese, and he's Korean. And Andrew Koji, who's
I could tell,
half, which I understand, like that is a hard thing, and I get people who are opposed to that. But having this little switch in the dialect or switch in the language allows people who aren't of Chinese descent. And sometimes I ask, like, was it, you know, the best person for the job, as opposed, because right now with representation and those kind of challenges that we're facing as artists, it's like, well, you can't even do that because you're not of this bloodline, or you're not of this ethnicity, and we're shutting doors so quickly, or doors are being shut in our faces, and so there's that fine line.
It's a fine line.
It's a fine line.
I think sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes
100% it makes sense. If it's historically rooted.
I totally see what you're saying. I think it's ultimately, I always bring this up, like a net positive. That's kind of how I like to look at things, right? I learned so much from the show. Like, if anything, it's just educational for me and entertaining. Like, you know, we see Chinatowns in San Francisco and all around the country, and you're like, oh, like, why is this here? What was the origin of this? Like, you see Tong, you still see Tong on some of these like signs, and you're like, holy crap. You know, like,
was that curb always red?
Yeah. You know? But it's so great to see the stories, the people, the experiences, and the narrative fully realized. And I'm really happy that you got to be part of it. And
thank you.
Thanks for sharing it with us today.
I just want to, again, thank you guys for being such huge supporters and spreading the word and the awareness, and everyone that's tuned in. I mean, it just means the world to us because, again, we are so proud of what the show is, and we're so excited that people are finding it now and loving it or relating to it or learning. It just means, so thank you.
Now that you're officially on lunch break, you are now officially part of the Wong Fu Tong.
I've been waiting to be.
Wong Fu sounds like a Tong, actually. You know, like
we need a look.
Thanks again to HBO Max for partnering with us on this video. They have an amazing curation of Asian American and Pacific Islander titles you can check out right now on their streaming platform. We love watching Nora from Queens. There's also Night Of with Riz Ahmed. Lisa Ling has a show on there. Ballers with The Rock. There's a lot of amazing content, so go check it out right now.
And also a short that we worked on with Julie Zahn is on HBO Max. It's called Zoetic. It's on HBO Max now if you guys want to see it. It was directed by Julie Zahn and Wesley Chan for the HBO Visionaries program.
That is so crazy. Technically, there's a Wong Fu piece of content
we got on HBO Max before Wars.
You guys are the OG.
Thank you again so much, Dianne.
Thank you, you guys.
And the fans, I'm sure, are so happy to see you here too, and we'll have you back.
I mean, please. You guys can have Manny here, and I'll just like be on the side, just sitting in, listening, and eating.
Yeah, we need Manny. We have a whole bunch of other things to talk to Manny about.
Thank you guys so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
See you.